All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about the announcement that Errol Spence Jr. made about the Yordenis Ugas fight and what Ugas had to say heading into it. Let's do that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Before I get into the subject matter of the video, please make sure that you support the sponsor of this video, BUSR, at busr.ag/Fanon. The Super Bowl is coming up this weekend. If you wager on the Super Bowl, for every touchdown scored in the Super Bowl, you will get an extra $10 to wager on for your next event. So make sure you guys support over there. Also, if you're not subscribed, hit the bell icon so you can get all notifications, and hit that like button before you leave the door. So the fight is official now. Errol Spence Jr. took to his Instagram this morning, and we now know the date, fight date, and location for a 3-belt unification fight between himself and Yordenis Ugas, and that is April 16th. April 16th at in Arlington at Dallas Stadium. Will be an absolutely huge event for 3 of the 4 major championship belts, the WBC and the WB and the IBF, which are held by Errol Spence Jr., and the WBA, which is Super, which is held by Yordenis Ugas. So it should be a terrific fight, should be a packed house, absolutely big event. More than likely, I'm going to try to go. Not sure, though, because, you know, COVID makes me a little bit more nervous because I got asthma. But at the same time, man, it's very close to where I am. Make sure you guys buy your tickets. My understanding is that there's a pre-sale access code that you can get for the fight that'll allow you to buy those tickets pre-sale. And they're going on sale at 12 o'clock today, which is February 8th. So if you use the preset code boxing at SeatGeek.com, you should be able to get access to pre-sale tickets. So make sure you guys go do that. Now, one of the things that I was going to talk about before this announcement came out was something that Yordenis Ugas had to say about Errol Spence Jr. and the confidence he has going into this fight. A lot of people are just assuming that Errol Spence Jr. is going to beat Yordenis Ugas and that it is going to be a easy fight for Errol Spence Jr. Or at least people are talking about that or acting like that when they're talking about the real fight that people want to see. And I do agree that this is the real fight that people want to see, which is Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. But Yordenis Ugas is a live dog. And what he said about this fight was, look, I love fighting Southpaws. I've got a lot of experience fighting Southpaws. So there's nothing that Errol Spence Jr. is going to bring to the table that I'm not going to be ready for. And I think that there may be some real truth to that, man. That Yordenis Ugas, it does not have a problem where a lot of other fighters have difficulties fighting guys that are Southpaws. Right now, why would people have a problem fighting a guy that is a Southpaw? Well, the Southpaw winds up being pretty much where you guys are fighting in an open stance, where, basically your jab hands are very close to each other. So when you throw a jab, a Southpaw can catch your jab because their hand is right in front of your jab. Where if they were fighting in something in a closed stance, your jab would be your backhand to the other. Your jab would be in front of the backhand for the other guy. So he would have to come all the way up here with the other hand to block or knock down your jab. And so that's a lot of difficulties usually for people trying to get around the jab of a Southpaw with their own jab, right? And also to make sure that and remember to move in the correct direction, which is away from the power hand, because usually you try to move away from the power hand of your opponent. But when somebody's a Southpaw and you're used to consistently moving to your right, well, you're moving into your right is moving directly into their power hand, which is their left hand, right? So you can literally be walking into power shots. But there's different techniques and ways that you go about fighting Southpaws, like making sure you're rotating to your left, keeping your foot on the outside of their foot, right? pawing down their jab, using straight rights instead of relying on your jab. There's different types of ways that, are proven to work on your, on your traditional southpaw, where not, if you don't fight a lot of southpaws, you may not be as familiar with, you may not be educated, in doing so. But somebody like Yordenis Ugas, who comes from Cuba, is in the amateurs, and when he was trained to fight, had a lot of experience fighting southpaws. And in fact, he was an orthodox fighter, which is more unusual for Cuban fighters coming out of the amateur than it is to be southpaws, because the Cuban amateur system is designed to win points and win fights in the world championships and the Olympics and such. So they want to have an advantage for their fighters over most other fighters. So they make fighters fight in the Southpaw stance, which is why you see guys like Luis Ortiz fighting in a Southpaw stance, Erislandy Lara fighting on a Southpaw stance, Guillermo Rigondeaux fighting on a Southpaw stance. You see a lot of that. And even when you have guys like Yuriorkis Gamboa, even though he fights for the most part in the orthodox stance, will also switch and have experience fighting in the Southpaw stance. Yordenis Ugas is an orthodox fighter, however, and so being an orthodox fighter fighting in that circumstance, he had to know how to deal with southpaws, which takes away the southpaw advantage that guys like Errol Spence Jr. typically have when they fight dudes that are not as familiar with it. So Yordenis Ugas is feeling like he's coming in there, with something that can neutralize Errol Spence Jr.'s effectiveness, and that's his knowledge of the Southpaw stance, something that we did get to see him do in the fight against Manny Pacquiao. And against Manny Pacquiao, he handled the Southpaw awkward punches, awkward angles of Manny Pacquiao, relatively easily, not a lot of difficulties. Saw what was coming and knew what he was doing and had a counter for pretty much everything that he was doing, Manny Pacquiao was doing. Now, that's not to say that Manny Pacquiao was the best Manny Pacquiao that he had ever been, that he was at the top of his career and all of that, and there's not any southpaws that can beat Yordenis Ugas. But when Yordenis Ugas says, hey, look, man, I'm not worried so much about Errol Spence because of that, and I like fighting southpaws, it's telling you that he probably does know what he's doing, and he's a counterpuncher as well. Now, the problem with him is that Errol Spence Jr. is somebody that is somebody that is an excellent counterpuncher, just like Yordenis Ugas is, and that he's somebody that has a lot of activity and a lot of very high work rate, right? And Yordenis Ugas is not somebody that is going to overpower or walk down Errol Spence Jr., right? So even if it is, and plus, considering where the fight is, being in Dallas Stadium, where Errol Spence Jr. is pretty much, that's his backyard in Arlington, Texas, there's going to be a lot of hooping and hollering, hooping and hollering and things like that for Errol Spence Jr., in that fight. So, it's going to be difficult for Yordenis Ugas to get a decision there, even if Yordenis Ugas is able to fight on par, and win significant rounds. Now, for me, I've got Errol Spence Jr. in this fight, winning it. I think he's just the better overall fighter. He's not a slick southpaw. He's a pressure southpaw, and who's coming to get him and is somebody that wins a lot of rounds and tries to pick up a lot of rounds. So, unless Yordenis Ugas is just, really, really, really performs at his absolute best level, I see Errol Spence Jr. winning it. But anyway, it's official. The fight is April 16th, which is not too far around, a little short of 2 months, 8 weeks. What is that, 9 weeks from now? A little more than, about 9 weeks from now. So it's go time, man. Looking forward to it. Anyway, that's my take on the scenario. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.